everybody, and welcome to Hawkeyefx Weekly Review with your host Marcus Toombs on Monday the 26th of June 2017. Okay, let's start by reviewing what happened last week and then we'll look forward to this week. So the main thing we were looking for was US dollar strength, and we certainly got a bit of US dollar strength coming in the early part of last week, but this didn't take hold and has tailed off at the back end of last week, and now you can see that it's starting to turn over. We're also looking for yen weakness, and this did come through the week, although we did have a pullback in the trend, which I'll show you shortly. The commodity countries up here, we were looking for New Zealand to turn over and weaken, and we were looking for the Aussie and the Canadian to turn down sometime within the week. And all of these three did turn down. However, the New Zealand has not given up all of this strength yet after the rates were kept on hold and the tone was slightly more hawkish than expected. At the bottom here, you can see we were looking for pound strength as we turned up from very low in the chart on a double shoulder. We were also looking for the euro to start to turn up and come into some strength. Okay, so let's take a look at the 8-hour charts, and we'll start off with the US dollar. Now, the US dollar, we were looking for strength after the FOMC meeting a couple of weeks ago when they raised the interest rates, and this line, the yellow line you can see here, is that point. And so the US dollar has indeed strengthened since that time. Now, it strengthened through the beginning half of last week, but in the latter half of last week, as you can see here, we've had a pullback and some weakening coming into the US dollar, and that was the case in all of these US dollar pairs. The other main mover we were looking for was yen weakness, and this has come through, except this line on Monday last week, you can see we had a pullback in the trend, and the yen did strengthen for a couple of days before starting to weaken again. And you can see here we are now back into a weakening cycle. So with the pound, we were looking for this to turn and start to come back into some strength, and this has happened. You can see here the only major trade set up is against the yen, and that's because the yen has been so weak. With the commodity countries here, you can see we've put in double bottoms, a bottom there, and a level of resistance here against the New Zealand, and these are slowly turning up to bring some strength into the pound currency. We're also looking for the euro to bottom out and start to come back into strength, and you can see here against the commodity countries, we're certainly in congestion as this currency pair is looking to turn against the Aussie here. The New Zealand still looking to bottom out. We have expected to come into some strength against the yen, and interestingly now the euro has started to strengthen against the US dollar, and we find ourselves still in this very tight range that's been going on for more than a month now. Now, the interesting one for me here particularly is the euro and the pound, as both currencies start to strengthen. We can see here the price is slowly consolidating into a flag formation, and we should shortly expect a breakout either to the upside or the downside. The New Zealand was the surprise currency of the week, showing some renewed strength, and this may well continue now for a little bit longer before this currency turns. For the Aussie here, you can see we are in fact weakening the back end of last week, except against the yen, which is weakening faster, and the Canadian, which is also weakening in parallel with the Aussie. And finally, the Canadian, as expected, it's gone into consolidation and started to weaken. The thing to look out for in these charts is that Hawkeye stop has gone horizontal in the charts, as you can see here, against most of these currencies. We're now looking for the price to come up and break these stops. We shall go into the uptrend for Canadian weakness. Okay, so let's look at the news release this week, and this is tier 1 data only. Again, you can see the calendar is very light this week. Tuesday and Wednesday are dominated by speakers. Then on Thursday we have GDP out of the US, and this is the final reading, so there shouldn't be too much deviation. And then on Friday we do have quite a lot of information released: manufacturing PMI out of China, German unemployment change, GDP out of the UK, inflation out of Europe, and GDP out of Canada. Okay, going back to the Daily Fat Man, let's have a look at the week ahead. You can see the US dollar has started to turn now, so we'll be looking to see which direction this takes. If it turns down, then there will be weakness come back into this currency, or it might well then turn back up on a shoulder pattern, and we can finally see some real strength coming into the currency. It's a very similar story with the yen here. This is turned to the horizontal. We're looking closely to see if this turns down to bring further weakness, and when it gets below the tram lines, we will see a lot of weakness come into this currency, or in fact turn up and start to strengthen on a shoulder pattern. The big ones for me are pound strength, although this is again heavily overshadowed by Brexit talk, and we may just see just a lot of volatility in this currency. For me, the big one here is the euro. This continues to strengthen. This will be the currency that I am looking at mostly this week. I'll also be looking for a weakness in the Aussie, the Canadian, and when this does finally turn down again, weakness in the New Zealand. Okay, I hope this insight helps, and I wish you a very strong trading week.